we're delighted to be here. Today, the emphasis is on international peace. And we are very happy to have you all here. And we have an extra member of the panel here who's not on the program, Mr. Gabriel Handel, who is with us, and a disciple of the Priya Yogi Sri Paramahamsa Yogananda, a 38-year meditator in that tradition. And he is not speaking, he is praying. And he's going to be praying for all of us and for world peace. But he wished to do that on the stage. So we brought Mr. Handel with us. And I would also like to say today we are going to begin with Alyn Ware. And mostly I have not introduced people in any degree of length, because of the pressure of time and because you have their bios in the program. But I did want to say one thing, is that on this panel, we have two representatives of the Nobel Peace Laureate Organization, International Peace Bureau, which are Jonathan Granoff over here and Alyn Ware over there from New Zealand. Jonathan Granoff from local here in Pennsylvania and Alyn Ware there. And Alyn was the former vice president of the organization, and both are active in the International Peace Bureau's Disarmament for Development program, which promotes a reduction in military spending in order to help fund the UN Millennium Development Goal. And Jonathan is an attorney and president of the Global Security Institute and senior advisor to the American Bar Association's Committee on Arms Control and National Security, and co-chair of the American Bar Association Blue Ribbon Task Force on Nuclear Non-Proliferation. And Alyn is the coordinator of parliamentarians for nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament, an international cross-party network of legislators from around the world, and coordinator of the World Court Project as well, the International Court of Justice, and a co-founder of Abolition 2000, which includes over 2,000 organizations calling for the abolition of nuclear weapons. And with this peace conference, although we're not a permanent organization, we certainly wish to be a member. And Alyn is from New Zealand, and he was awarded the 1996 UN International Year of Peace Prize and the 2009 Right Livelihood Award in honor of peace education and disarmament work. So I just made an exception to introduce them and their organizations, since we are dealing with peace in the world today. And many of you are here, so grateful to you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you. Alyn Ware, on you go. And remember the dread bell over here. Onward.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is the microphone on? Can you hear? Yes. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for inviting me here. I've come quite a long way from New Zealand, but it's really been worth it. It's wonderful to be in such an incredible mix of people working from peace from within out to peace in the world. And I was really happy that this sign, the big peace sign, was used as a really important sign for the conference, because this sign also makes the link between peace at the personal level through to peace in the world. If you'd gone onto the website of the Peace Summit, which I'm sure you have, you would have read about the story about where this sign came from. What? The start of the anti-nuclear campaign in the 1950s. And this, down and across there, are the two signs for N and D, nuclear disarmament. But it's also the figure of a person, one person with their hands outstretched, and the circle is the world. And so with one person reaching out to others and holding hands around the world, we can have world peace. Oh, just a wonderful symbol for the conference.
Oh, that's what that is. I never knew that.
And my story is just one person who was a kindergarten teacher working for children to help children have a better life, realizing that I couldn't just work with them individually to help them build their skills and their love and compassion for each other and quality of life in their own lives. I had to also help to provide for a peaceful world for them. And it's also a story of my country, New Zealand, which now is known as a very peaceful country. In fact, we were #1 in the Global Peace Index the last 2 countries in the last 2 years in a row. But what people probably don't remember is we used to be a very warlike country. we used to really get into every war we could. The Boer War, the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, the Malaya War. If there was a war, we'd be there. In fact, we actually declared war on Germany even before the Allies. We were so wanting to get in there. And we sent like half of our young men over to Europe to fight in the war there. Very involved in wars. We were also very, very supportive of nuclear weapons. During the Second World War, we were threatened with Japan. They had started invading Australia and were about to come down and take over New Zealand. So when the nuclear bomb was used, most people in New Zealand felt, wow, this is a good thing. It's ended the war. But since then, people have changed their thinking and the world has changed. And we saw the impact of nuclear testing in the Pacific, the radiation just from the testing of nuclear weapons, and the destruction it caused. Whole islands vaporized by the nuclear weapons testing. Huge increases in rates of cancer and other horrible diseases, in deformed babies, in stillbirths. The children are the most affected by the radiation because it's their cells that are growing. We saw this horror build up from what we thought was something which was good to something we realized was threatening the world, not just if nuclear weapons are used, but the very fact of their production and testing. The other thing also is that how could we build a world of peace? A world which we had helped put the vision for a world of peace with the UN Charter. At the end of the Second World War, which was supposed to be the war to end all wars, we built a framework for peace, and it's a wonderful framework. The United Nations Charter has all the elements for peace, from the peoples and the countries working together with different mechanisms for resolving conflicts, and yet nuclear weapons are entirely in opposition to that. Nuclear weapons is like the ultimate bully. You know, you don't do what I want, we can blow you up. And when you're bullying someone, it doesn't build trust. It doesn't build cooperation. It doesn't help to work for the type of world that we want. And so that helped change our thinking in New Zealand to working out that there's better ways of building a peaceful world than threatening to blow each other up. So we started campaigning against nuclear weapons, and we did it person to person. We started off by just talking with each other and saying, what can we do in our homes? Well, we can declare our home a nuclear weapon-free zone as our statement. So we'd make stickers, we'd put them on our letterbox or our front door or on our cars. Then we'd take that to our schools and to our workplaces and our churches and declare them nuclear weapon-free zones. And then our cities, city councils. And it was a way of talking about the issue to people and saying it's not just up to the leaders. You know, the leaders will move when we move. If we move, the leaders will follow. And so one by one, cities around New Zealand were declaring themselves nuclear free, and that was such a strong message to the government that in 1984, our government declared New Zealand nuclear free. That meant that the nuclear weapons that used to be coming into our harbours to help defend us were no longer allowed. We banned them. We said to the United States and France and the United Kingdom, you can come, but just leave your bombs at home. Well, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, they weren't too happy about that. They liked having New Zealand on board. I mean, we're a very strategic country. They needed us because we're way down the bottom of the world, close to Antarctica. And if the penguins get uppity down Antarctica, you might need nukes. So they decided, well, we can't let New Zealand be nuclear free. It's a bad example. They called it, we're Kiwis. New Zealanders are called Kiwis. That's after our bird, our native bird. It's also the fruit kiwi. We are called Kiwis. So if you see a New Zealander and say, g'day Kiwi, they'll like you for it. So, but the US called this anti-nuclear campaign the Kiwi disease. They were really worried it was going to contage the rest of the world. So they tried to stop us. They put a trade boycott on New Zealand. They tried to disable our government. They cut off military intelligence, which was actually a good thing because military intelligence is an oxymoron. We were more intelligent without it. But the boycott was the hard one because we're a trading nation and our economy is based on trade. So we were very worried that it might really undermine our country. And what we're really thankful for is when President Reagan was putting forward the boycott, that the US people came and opposed that and set up the opposite, the Girlcott campaign. And in the United States, some of you may have been part of that. You went out and bought New Zealand nuclear-free kiwi fruit, New Zealand nuclear-free cheese and butter, and we thank you for that, because that helped us stay strong and keep our nuclear weapon-free zone. So thank you. I'm bringing a thank you from New Zealand to you, American people, for helping us. And that framework of moving from reliance on nuclear weapons to reliance on peace has helped shape our foreign policy and helped shape our people. So New Zealand is now very much supportive of UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who's put forward a plan for nuclear disarmament. We're also very supportive of President Obama. And we know some people in the United States think, well, maybe, he's not living up to the hope that we had for him. Well, from our perspective, he's doing amazing things. He is the first... He is the first US president to not only accept our nuclear-free legislation, but to celebrate New Zealand as being a partner with him and with the United States in the vision for a nuclear weapons-free world. And just last week, President Obama put to the US Senate the nuclear-free treaty for the South Pacific and the nuclear-free treaty for Africa to the Senate for ratification. So we're thankful that he's actually putting into action those words and that vision. So I'm here to join you, my friends in the United States and other friends from around the world who are working for a nuclear weapons-free world, because we know that that is part of the process and one of the most important parts of the process for a world of peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alyn. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alyn. And Jody, do you have anything about this? We can take a minute or two to discuss anything he said. Do you have anything you want to say?
What is your position on nuclear energy? Because 10 Nobel laureates signed a call, for ending nuclear energy, because we believe it is also capable of being used for nuclear weapons, as we see with the fear over Iran. And I want the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant out of my backyard anyway.
Thanks, Jody. In New Zealand, the government wanted to start nuclear energy back in 1973-75, the first oil crisis. And we set up Campaign 500,000, which in New Zealand, we only had 3 million people in the country. We got 500,000 signatures saying no to nuclear energy, and we stopped the proposal.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Does anybody else have
it's
any questions?
Too dangerous, and there are other ways of creating our energy needs.
That's true, yes. It is deplorable how a lot of the green people are saying that nuclear power is clean nowadays. They are, a lot of the old hippies. It's very worrisome. Does anyone else have anything to say? There is the question of, oh yes, Shirin, please.
فاجعه‌ای که در فوکوشیمای ژاپن اتفاق افتاد نشون داد که اصولا انرژی هسته‌ای میتونه خیلی خطرناک باشه. بنابراین من مخالفت خودم رو با هر نوع استفاده هسته‌ای اعلام میکنم و میگم که این انرژی سالم نیست.
The catastrophic event that happened in Japan proves that nuclear energy cannot be clean and healthy. Therefore, I state my opposition against nuclear energy.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now we go second to the Isobel Arthen from Peace Jam, our youth representative.
Well, first I want to give a big thank you to Professor Thurman for all the work that you've done. And everyone here is taking such good care of us.
Hope and Kira and Gundon are the ones to thank, but I will thank them eventually. Thank you.
It's an honor for me to be speaking on such an amazing panel, especially to be speaking alongside two women who have been such models of strength and bravery for me. I'm here to tell you about an organization that has changed my life. My first experience with Peace Jam was in 2006 at the 10th anniversary when we had the largest gathering of Nobel Peace Prize laureates in the United States ever. And these two wonderful women were also there. My mom had heard about Peace Jam at some conference somewhere and thought that I would be interested because it was an incredible opportunity. So without knowing what to expect, off we went to Denver to meet these 10 Nobel Peace Prize laureates. I was expecting, to see a bunch of hippie kids who wanted to change the world, and their parents were ex-hippies, and they'd be like me. And I remember walking into this huge gymnasium, and my jaw must have dropped, because in that room were every single different type of kid, every different artificial label I could pick. They were all there. You had the goth kids, you had the punk kids, you had the inner city kids, you had the hippie kids, definitely. And then there was this guy with bright blue hair running around in a circle singing "Ride That Pony," and I was just amazed. And as the conference went on, I got hooked. And I had the opportunity to see all of the laureates speak on stage. And I had been told before, you can change the world, you have a voice, youth are our future. And I did believe it. I really believed it, and that was why I was there. And so, you all know by now that every time these laureates open their mouth, they change your life, every time. But it wasn't them that really got me. It was looking around the room and seeing the 3,000 kids from around the world that were there with me, who were hearing the same thing and believed it. And I thought, these were the people. These are the people who are doing it with me. I knew they were there, I knew people cared, but I could see them. And they were from all walks of life. And with 3,000 people, you have a big voice. So I was hooked, and I went back and started a group, and I've been involved ever since. At that conference, we had the laureates presented a global call to action, which was a list of the 10 issues that they thought were most important to be addressed right now. And with that list, they challenged the youth of the world and the world to carry out 1 billion acts of peace by 2018. And so in Peace Jam, we're about action. We're about walking our talk and making change and coming together and just doing the work. It's like people have been saying all weekend, if you care, that's great, but if you don't do anything about it, it's irrelevant. We need to go out and change things. So that's what the global call to action challenges us all to do. So we have Team Tibet, who are in Dharamsala, who got water to a village who hadn't had clean drinking water for decades. We have a group in Maine who started a campaign to green their school, and after many years of work, they ended up saving their school $60,000 a year, just through supporting green energy and making their school more sustainable. We're doing amazing work. Peace Jam is already changing the world. And so I'll challenge you. I'll leave you with 2 challenges. I want you to join us. I want each and every one of you in this room to go home and pick something that you are really passionate about, that really makes you angry, and figure out what you can do to change it or to help change it. And then I want each of you to go on to www.peacejam.org, write it down, and I want you to join our Peace Jam community and register it as one of our global call to action projects. Anyone can do it. Do it on your own, do it with your family, do it with a group of kids. Just do it, Jody Williams started out as a kid on the playground standing up for her brother because she recognized social injustice and wanted to change it. Shirin Ebadi started out as a little girl who understood that she had the same rights as her brothers, and then lived her life demanding those rights, and not only for herself, but for everyone and every woman in Iran and in the world. Desmond Tutu started out as a little boy shining shoes in Soweto, South Africa, and ended up helping to bring a nation to democracy and peace and equality. Every single one of us has the capacity to act and to make change. We have no excuse, and we live in a time where being passive is not an option, and wait and see what happens doesn't work anymore. So I ask each of you to go home and see what you can do. See what you can do to contribute. My last challenge for you all is to go home and listen to the youth around you. Really listen. You know, we always say the youth is our future, you know, they'll be taking care of this, but they're here now. We're here right now, and we can make a difference now, not just in the future. And there's so much wisdom that we can get from our elders, so much experience that we can share. But I think it's underestimated too often, the power that youth already have and the wisdom that they have. So go home and embrace their visions, because they have ideas. They have really good ideas, and they care, and they want to be heard, and they want to be involved. And I challenge every one of you to go home and listen and ask them, what do you see in the world? What do you want to change? How do you want to do it? And how can I help you do it? Whether it's, you know, a little kid, or whether it's a college student, you know, there's a lot of wisdom to be gained there. So I'll leave you with that, and yeah, it's important. We're all together.
All right.
You know?
Thank you very much, Isobel. Onward. Thank you so much. That's wonderful.